Hello everyone and welcome to the Africam show, brought to you by explore.org. My name is Russell Gerber. Great to be back with you again for the show. And I hope you can all hear me okay as we dive into all of the good things we hope will get coming down to the waterholes and the cameras in the next few minutes and half an hour or so. We of course will have some of our highlights to show you from the last few days, the last week. We've had some really great things coming on the cameras all around the country. As always, if you have anything on your mind, any questions, or even just to give us a shout out and say hello, would be wonderful to have you commenting and of course giving us any kind of questions that might be on your mind. But don't be shy. I'm always very happy to answer those questions, so keep them coming. And yeah, let's go right in. We've kicked off the show, as you can see, at Tau today. So what looks like a lone blue wildebeest, or gnu, depending on where you're from. And of course a couple of aquatic bird species. Looks like we've got some resident black-winged stilts, blacksmith lapwing. I think our grey heron on the other side of the waterhole there. And of course our Egyptian geese have been hanging around. Things have been pretty quiet on the cameras. We're starting to see a little bit of rainy weather coming through, and I know we go on and on about the weather, but of course this is the end of the dry season, so things are really quite tough for a lot of the animals. There's not much available in the way of food, so whenever you start seeing a little bit of the clouds rolling in, and we have seen just a taste of rain in a couple of our locations, well, it does suggest that there might be opportunity for then those animals to move away from the traditional permanent water sources and give themselves a chance to move into other parts of the ecosystem to feed. But you never know when they'll be back again. But yeah, it's not uncommon for as soon as you start to see some rain arriving in the area that the animals just scatter away into all corners of the reserve. Never know when we're going to see them again. Looking at our grey herons here. Not too sure what they're up to there. It looks like almost a courting ritual, but potentially a youngster in the background, maybe hoping for a free meal. And a quick hello to Susie Greekin, Pearl O'Brien. Thank you for your comments and thanks for joining us. And Susie asks, what are some of your most memorable sightings? Well, Susie, yeah, there are many. I've been very fortunate to spend a lot of my working life in the bush and on safari. And I've had all kinds of different sightings, I would say, from amazing experiences on foot with, the big mammals of Africa, which can sometimes be a little hair-raising. I've also seen some incredible things on game drive. I would say a lot of them were hunts where we were following animals, lions or wild dog or leopard, actually hunting another creature. Now I can't say that I love actually watching these animals take down a prey species, but to see the great stealth, power, speed and patience involved in each one of those hunts is really quite remarkable, and it just puts into perspective how difficult it is out there. And one of my favorite sightings was watching a pride of lions. We had been in the reserve for a few days, watching them on a few hunts where they'd been unsuccessful and missed what they were going for. They tried a couple of wildebeest, they tried a couple of zebra, they even had a go at a couple of big buffalo bulls, and nothing was working out for them. And it was a pride of about 10, 4 big adult lionesses, and then the rest were sub-adult cubs. And those cubs kept ruining each hunt as they headed out. They kept going too early or giving away the location of the pride and those 4 lionesses, and they were making things very difficult for the 4 moms. But eventually we were following them, actually hunting some tsessebe, which is a very interesting antelope that you find here in Africa, and one of the fastest over long distances. And we thought there was no chance. There was no chance they were going to take them down. But as we watched, they slowly started to flank the tsessebe. The 4 lionesses spread out, one of them actually going around the left-hand side in a wide arc around the back of the tsessebe. The wind was in the perfect direction. It was just starting to get dark, and the tsessebe were completely unaware of the lion's presence. And eventually, that lioness that had flanked them from the back started chasing, and the 3 other lionesses who had waited on the other side head on with the tsessebe. Well, this single lioness chased that whole group of tsessebe straight at those other 3 lionesses, who incredibly just pounced out of their hiding places, and they managed to take down 2 tsessebe at the same time, and actually managed to subdue them, and had a massive meal for a pride that size, which would of course sustain them for a number of days after that. But again, just incredible to see the patience, the power involved. And I mean, these lions were looking really skinny by that stage, and you just don't really give them much chance. When we came back to view them again the next day, they were as round as a beach ball, and really just amazing in terms of their recovery and putting weight back on again as they carried on with their life. So that was certainly one of my most interesting sightings, and something that I really found to be really remarkable. But as I said, I've had a lot of good ones over the years and been very fortunate. So I hope that answers your question. Pearl, you were asking, where in Africa are you? We are in South Africa, Pearl. So cameras all around various locations in South Africa, mostly in the northern parts of the country, some around the Kruger National Park, some around the Botswana border near Medikwe, and some down in KwaZulu-Natal as well. Thank you for your question. Let's go over to Olifants River and see who we've got hanging around on that side. We've been checking out our grey herons here at Tau for a while. It does seem to be 2 adults, not a sub-adult as I initially thought. But we've got a beautiful big waterbuck bull laying down by the river, looking fairly relaxed. You can see those beautiful big ears, radars moving back and forth, trying to track down any potential threat as he lays down by the water. Now normally there'd be a couple of females around, so I'm sure they are hanging around, perhaps hidden away a little bit in the bush. But beautiful sighting. Lovely to see the waterbuck always. And as I said to you folks, we've got some really great highlights for you. And one of the things we wanted to chat to you about today was, of course, as we head into summer, we start to get some of our migratory bird species arriving. We're going to show you some of those characters so that you can look out for them on the cameras later today. But I wanted to ask you quickly our quiz question for the day. As we talk about our migratory bird species, I'd love for you to tell me your best guess. What was the longest recorded straight migration in terms of time and distance flown by a migratory bird species, and what kind of bird was it? So what was the longest ever migration, and what kind of bird was it? Let me know your thoughts. We'll get towards the answer towards the end of the show, and let's see what you got. Do your best to stay off Google, and let's get those answers coming in. But for now, as we watch this beautiful waterbuck, let's go into our first highlight of the day. So this one is really, really interesting, and something, if I'm honest with you folks, I've never actually seen live before. No, I've certainly not seen it in person, but seeing it on the camera was just absolutely remarkable to me. This was from our Kemper's Dam camera. This is of course aardvark. What's so interesting is that not only is it one aardvark, it's two aardvarks. And not only is it two aardvarks, but it is an aardvark pair attempting to mate on camera. And now, as I said, that is something I've never witnessed in all my years as a safari guide in the field. And being able to see it like this on the cameras is just unbelievable. And you can see this chap is really trying his luck. The female not too interested in him. She's much more interested in foraging and seeing what she can find to eat. But yeah, short but really unbelievable sighting, and again just highlights how great it is to have these cameras, you know, with the incredible technology that we have to view the animals in the dark. Remember, there's no light on those animals at night, so they have no idea that we can see them, so we can really view them in their natural environment and witness their natural behaviors as much as possible. So really, really cool sighting. And yeah, not every day we get to see something like that. And then Stephanie asks, hi Stephanie, first of all, but she asks, why are some animals collared instead of microchipped? Is it a safety issue for the animals to avoid getting their chips tracked by poachers? Stephanie, very good question. For the most part, it comes down to cost. Microchips, in some instances, if you're going to use them as satellite tracking systems, those microchips can be very, very expensive. Collars themselves are expensive on their own, and so at the end of the day, a majority of these decisions come down to cost factor. So that's the main reason that you would see scientists and various researchers using collars as their go-to system for tracking down the animals. There is always the potential danger of poachers picking up the radio signal and the frequency for particular species, but again, you know, they do all they can to mitigate that as much as possible, but it is a potential risk at all times. So with that in mind, you know, most animals that are collared, particularly if they are under threat from potential poachers, they will have people nearby them most of the time, and in many ways it does alleviate some of the poaching potential for that particular animal. So you never know what may happen, but it is, you know, part of the risk of doing research in these areas. And the first answer to our little quiz question, who is the longest migration, what bird species and how far? And the first one, Carol Dyer, she says Arctic tern. Very good guess. I'm not going to tell you if you're right just yet, Carol, but a good start to the answers. Keep them coming. We're just over at Tembe. We're back at Olifants River now live. Let's go back to Tembe actually. It kind of ties into what we've been chatting about today with our change in the season. And I did notice on the cameras there a little youngster, very young impala. And the exciting thing about that is that we're starting to see the first fawns being dropped by the impalas, which often coincides with the first rains. So a very good sign that we may indeed start seeing more and more of them. And of course a very good time for predators, especially smaller predators like the leopard cheetah, wild dog. Impala calves can be a big part of their diet for this time of year, and though those big predatory species can give birth pretty much any time of year, you often see a little peak around this season. Yeah, and that was the group of impala lambs that we saw. Sorry, not foals. Thinking of zebra that I was chatting about last night, but yeah, I did see a very young one as well. You can see there's a nyala in the background, but there was a very young impala lamb who was nursing. I think they've just moved into the bushes, but it's definitely something worth keeping an eye out for as we move into the season. And it's likely we're going to see a whole bunch of those young impala lambs popping out over the next month or two. So keep your eyes on the cameras for that at all the locations across the Africam portfolio, essentially. As we wait for that youngster to come out again, let's go into our next highlight for the day. Again, something that was really fun to chat about. And this is just a reminder of some of those migratory species. And one of the particular species that you can be on the lookout for arriving, most of them should, or some of them should be around already, in fact. But this is, of course, the Wahlberg's eagle. They're often confused with the tawny eagle, but they're quite a lot smaller. And here you can see as well, that size is quite significant and probably the easiest way to tell them apart from each other. But definitely worth keeping an eye out for. Beautiful species with a bunch of different morphs as well that you often find. You know, from dark morphs, this looks more like a dark morph Wahlberg's. We get a buff morph as well, and even a pale morph, which looks almost white and grey. So really fun and interesting bird to look out for, and certainly one you should start keeping an eye out for on the cameras from this time of year. As I mentioned, he is a summer migrant, and they should be back round about now, and this should be the prime time for breeding for them around about the end of October. Even late September we start seeing breeding and nesting sites for the Wahlberg's eagles, so keep an eye out for them as well. And Wanda asks, I think there's our little impala lamb. I think that was the one I saw, but yeah, it looks very young, so it could very well be. As I said, very exciting to see them coming. Wanda asks, have you ever encountered any danger on one of your safaris? Wanda, nothing that I ever felt, you know, is really in a life-threatening position. But yes, when you're out in the wild, and I did do a lot of walking safaris in my time, there were times where we came across animals on foot that were quite close, and did give us an indication that we were a little too close. I've been very close to lions on foot, elephant, buffalo. I've actually been chased up a tree by a buffalo before, which was quite exciting. And but yeah, you know, it's something that you also do as part of your training when you're working towards becoming a guide. And also, you know, it is just a part of the game. You know, when we're out with guests and on safari, we don't take as many risks. We're a lot more careful in how we approach things. And I would say that safari is actually a lot safer than a lot of people realize. You know, all the studying and work done to understand the behaviors of animals by your guides and your rangers, all, you know, makes for a very safe experience out in the wild. So yeah, certainly something that you wouldn't have to worry about if on safari. No more than any other outdoor activity. But yeah, you know, they are big animals. There's some potential danger out there, even from some of the smaller venomous animals that you have to be aware of. So it's all about just being aware, keeping that sense of being in the wild, and not forgetting that you are in their territory and not at home. But thank you for your question. Lovely to hear. Angela from the UK says she loves the cameras, and this is your first African safari. It's very exciting, Angela. I'm very glad to hear it. I hope you're having a good time. Denise Danner says there was just a bird from New Zealand that did a very long flight. That's a good call, Denise. We'll get back to that a little later in terms of our quiz question. And then Jolie asks, is there a certain reason why pack animals travel alone, such as elephants, hyenas, or gnus? Depending on the animal, Jolie, it is simply a part of their nature. Often you find the males will spend a lot of time on their own or in small bachelor herds. In terms of hyenas, they do spread out to cover as much ground as possible for scavenging and hunting purposes for their clan. Elephant bulls will spend a significant portion of time alone. They just don't feel too much in the way of threat by other species and being hunted by other species, so they feel quite safe on their own. So the most part, animals that do spend time together, it is a safety in numbers feature, and that helps them to survive and make it through to onward and further generations as each generation survives. So yeah, it's all about safety, and as I say, some animals are adapted in different ways, but generally you'll find most of your antelope species will be in herds, and in the case of gnu, which you do sometimes see alone, they are actually just territorial, and sometimes those territorial males, they'll establish one spot where they'll hope that other females will come through that territory, and that wildebeest is certainly at a greater threat by hanging out on its own like that. So it's something that they would have to be aware of, and it is a danger for them to be on their own. Majority of the time they prefer to spend it in herds, and you'll often find those lone gnus will spend time with other species, herding species as well, to keep themselves as safe as possible. So yeah, hope that answers your question too. And one more video for today before we run out of time. I wanted to show you another highlight that we got for you for another beautiful interaction, and this was something that you don't see every day, and this was baboons chasing off wild dogs. Now, wild dogs are certainly not known for hunting baboons, and what a lot of people don't realize about baboons is they are extremely powerful in their own right. I've seen a troop of baboons physically attack a female leopard before, almost mobbed it and chased it away from their territory. Leopard do hunt baboons, so when they need to, they can be absolutely fearless in chasing off potential predators. And though wild dogs are voracious predators and can and do take down various antelope species and are highly successful in those hunts, yeah, I've never seen them take on baboon before, but it's always a potential danger. And the baboons, they're pretty smart. They will always, when they have the opportunity, take the upper hand and chase those predators off, especially if they get too close like that. But a really great sighting, one of Africa's most endangered big predators, the wild dog. The Katmai baboons are much more common across the region. But yeah, really cool sighting. And it's another great thing about watching the cameras this time of year when it's so dry and you do get a lot of animals concentrating around the waterhole. You'll often see these interactions between species, which is always so fun to watch. I think we're back. Yeah, we're back live now at Tau. I think we've got time. It's still a bit quiet here at Tau as these impala start coming through the bushes, heading towards the waterhole, I suspect. Let's see if we can squeeze in one more quick video before we get to our quiz answer. And this one I wanted to show you just as another species to look out for on the cameras. Another summer migrant that we want you to let us know as soon as you see them. I don't think we've seen any yet. We were just chatting about it with our colleagues and my colleagues and I, and it doesn't seem like we've had any arriving just yet, but certainly a beautiful, beautiful species worth looking out for. And that wonderful call, so indicative of the arrival of summer. And this is, of course, the woodlands kingfisher. So keep an eye out for that beautiful turquoise color, the beautiful black wing, and that wonderful call. And between those things, that beautiful red beak with the red and black bill. You can see the bottom bill is black in color. All of those little indicators will let you know when you've spotted him or her. But yes, a clear sign of summer here in Africa, so keep your eyes peeled for them. And you can let us know on the show next week if you were lucky enough to spot any. But unfortunately, that means we've run out of time for today, and it is time to get to our quiz answer. But a number of you gave me some really good answers, but one of you has clearly been reading your news, and that was Denise Dana. Yes, indeed, there was a bird from New Zealand. Well, actually from Alaska, but the story originated out of New Zealand. It was an incredible journey of a bar-tailed godwit, which was recorded for flying for 11 days straight from Alaska to New Zealand, traversing a distance of around 7,500 miles without stopping, and actually broke the longest non-stop flight among birds known to scientists. So that was pretty cool. Not something we see every day, and that was about a year ago that actually happened. I don't know if it's been broken since then, so if anyone has heard any new record-breaking news, let me know. But as it stands, the bar-tailed godwit holds the record. So well done to all of you out there with your questions and answers, and of course your guesses for the quiz today. And thank you so much for all of your interaction. As I mentioned, my name is Russell Gerber. You can find me at Russ the Ranger on Instagram, and of course I will be popping in at the on the community chat group at explore.org on the Africam channel for a couple of questions after the show if there's anything else on your mind. But for now, keep an eye out for the new impala babies on their way, and for a couple of those migratory bird species. We'll touch on a few more over the next few weeks. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, everyone. Always a pleasure hanging out with you in the African wild, and I'll see you all again next week, the same time and same place. Cheers for now.